G'day mates, today's video is going to be covering the first Cash Cup finals of the season. We got to see who are the best pros, where are they dropping, and why are they doing so well. So I got all that information for you guys. We also have the Twitch Rivals tournament taking place today, but it's a little bit different than a lot of people realize. This actually isn't an entirely no build tournament. There is going to be a building element, and we now have some insane new pro teams announced for it that I believe are pretty much just going to run the show. So I'm excited to talk about that. And on the topic of no building tournaments, this is the one that's getting a lot of attention. PlayStation Cup being made no building despite being one of the very few competitive console events. A lot of people really upset, and a lot of people saying that this is now pointing towards getting things like a no build FNCS. So I want to give all my thoughts on a topic that's been talked about a lot, but this is a big development from Epic. So there's a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Today we had our first Cash Cup finals, our first proper competitive set lobby tournament of the season. I'm so excited to talk about the new teams, where they're dropping, how they're all going, give you guys a proper competitive update video. I will start off by saying though, we're going to talk about EU first, and Vortex and Janus absolutely dominated, and this by no means takes it away from them. But I will say the EU tournament was a little bit scuffed. For the first, I believe, 3 games, the burst AR just didn't do any damage. And I know that sounds ridiculous. You're just gonna have to accept it. Fortnite managed to make the burst AR rifle just do almost no damage. Sometimes it hit, sometimes it didn't. Apparently when they dropped a hotfix to take the heavy sniper out of competitive because it wasn't supposed to be in, they also made it that the burst AR shots just don't register majority of the time. So obviously I still think Vortex and Janus completely deserve this win because they played out of their minds, and they played under the same circumstance everyone else. Their burst rifles weren't doing damage and no one else's were. They had the same thing, but I thought I would mention it for some of the teams that maybe didn't do as well. It was a little bit scuffed. So Vortex and Janus came out on first on 206 points. Their first 4 games, they had almost 200 points. It was ridiculous. They got a 5 elim 4th, 6 elim win, 8 elim win, 2 elim 4th. That was their first 4 games. An average placement of, I think, what's that make that, second? With good elims to boot. They played so insanely well. Their last 2 games, their 5th game not being too bad, a 4 elim 14th, but their last game, unfortunately, being a 1 elim 28th, but still, they beat out Mustache and Malibuca by almost 30 points. They played so insanely well. I'll also mention Vortex and Janus don't do this out of like an uncontested covert, or they're doing like a chonkers drop. They're just south side of Sleepy, a very normal, natural POI. Yes, they have it to themselves, but it's not insane loot. And if I had to bring it down to one key reason why they played so well, it was the prioritization of the chonker wheel Lambo. And again, this is what we saw a lot by Scented and Cold at the start of last season when they were popping off out of south side of Sleepy. They get a guaranteed chonker wheel Lambo every game, and they play it so insanely well. They rotate, they box it up, they even actually carry a repair tool a lot of their games. They fix it up and they keep rotating, and that's what saved a lot of their mats, and that's why they were able to play so insanely well. They did lots of other phenomenal things, but if you guys are asking me why did Vortex and Janus do so well today, that is why. I'll also touch on one of the biggest changes right now in the competitive season is this new surge change. I've talked about it in videos. Storm Surge now hits every 10 seconds, not every 5, meaning Storm Surge is way less punishing, especially in the early stages. Like first Surge, you throw down a shield keg and you can just out heal it pretty easily and just take shots at people. It doesn't feel as punishing as what it used to, and if people keep asking my opinion on that, I wanted to watch a proper set lobby tournament first, and I want to watch more, but at this point, I'm not a huge fan of it, especially on the map we have right now, because the map we have is so insanely good with how much loot there is. There is enough loot for like 50 teams to get looted. We have like 8 teams splitting covert, not really fighting and still walking out with good loot. So it's just making the early games really boring. And I know what you guys are probably thinking. I've always argued for a really stacked map, and I want games to be stacked, and I agree. But at the moment, the early and mid game from a spectator standpoint, it's a little slow. It's only Cash Cups, it's not FNCS, so it doesn't have that same level of hype like an FNCS will, but ultimately the early games, I felt like my viewers agreed, it was a little slow. So having that really easy Storm Surge and having a map with so much loot combined is making for a very quiet early and mid game. But I was talking to some of the pros in my chat, and some of them were split. Some liked the Storm Surge change, some didn't. I understand the arguments for and against it. The arguments for it being, if you have a not so great early game drop spot, maybe your teammate goes goes down, maybe someone contests you, the surge doesn't feel like it completely ruins your entire game. But it also means that if you're not worrying about your surge, which is a big element of the game and really, decide the best of the best players, it feels like you're not being punished for it now. And if you now go to psycho a team to get your surge, you can easily heal up to full health before surge ticks you, jump in and win the fight. So the team that managed their surge is now being punished because you didn't, but you're not at the disadvantage of being hit by a heavy surge, so they should be able to kill you. Do you know what I mean? So I see it going both ways. I'll need to watch a few more tournaments to really make my decision, but right now, just based on today, I wasn't the biggest fan of how the new surge was working. The games were insanely stacked, and honestly, the servers handled it pretty well though. So if you like really stacked games and you don't care that the early and mid game there wasn't as much combat as there normally is, then you probably love it. So I think it might just be a personal preference thing as well. We had I saw one game today where there was 70 something players in 3rd and 4th zone, just still out healing surge for minutes at a time. It was insane. We did have Mustache and Malabuka come in second, winning out the tiebreak over Kroll and Bandwise. I will have to mention Malabuka still is unable to earn any money from Fortnite, so he is currently doing it just for the clout, just doing it for the practice and the recognition and making sure that Mustache is banking out right now. So huge props to Malabuka. We had Kroll and Bandwise, like I said, come in third. Vino and Aqua in fourth. And remember, Vino and Aqua are dropping Covert, and they are conned on the south side of Covert by none other than Thomas HD and Tayson. And they're still coming top 4. They won. I want to say they won it. Basically, they outdropped Thomas and Tayson almost every single game. So Thomas and Tayson chose to split, go do another split loot path, and then either come back and try and fight for some loot at Covert, or just rotate to zone and give it up. So I don't want to say that Aqua and Vino beat Thomas and Tayson every game. You can interpret that how you want. They got the drop spot, they beat them, but a lot of times they didn't actually fight. The few times they did fight though, Vina Aqua came out on top. They played really well. We also had Vico and Jixon, I believe it is, in 5th place. iDrop and Jerky, a new phenomenal team right now, 6th place. Steno and Lewis, Seti and Kami, another brand new team going, obviously the Kami split. Coop and Cade, and then in 10th, Benji and Savage. Now, Benji and Savage coming in 10th. 10th is good, but I do think Benji and Savage can do way better. They're at Tilted Towers right now. They have the majority of it uncontested, and they do have the NPC right now selling launch pads for 100 gold. So 10th place is still great, and I'm a huge Benji and Savage fanboy, so I'm putting even more pressure on them. They didn't play bad by any means. It's a top 10, but I do want to see Benji and Savage pop off this season like a lot of people do, and I think they can. They didn't do anything that I saw outwardly wrong. I honestly think Benji hasn't been playing that much coming into the season. Benji is always going to be the kind of player that once FNCS gets announced, is going to start grinding harder, going to start placing even higher throughout the season. So a 10th place to kick off when I think Benji only started playing this season literally 2 days ago is really not that bad. Moving on to the NA East leaderboard. Yes, you're seeing that right. Cold and Centered in first. That means that the south side of Sleepy won both EU and NA East. Am I saying it's the most broken drop on the map right now? Of course not. By absolutely no means is that what I'm saying. And a lot of people are doing, oh man, they won from the same drop on EU and NA. That never happens. It's just because they're two phenomenal teams that are both going a good drop spot. It's not bad by any means, but it's definitely not the best. Centered and Cold popped off. They got 178 points, just beating out Joji and Rokane in second on 173. And I do feel bad for Joji and Rokane because last game, Joji was solo from, I think, half, and he clutched up a 3 elim 4th as a solo, played so insanely well. He thought he had the tournament in the bag. He probably left the game thinking, that is it, I have won, because he went into the last game right at the top. But unfortunately for him, it was a 14 elim second that got Cold and Centered into the first place when Joji and Rokane fell down in 4th. I felt so bad for him. He played so well. And like I said, Joji and Rokane, one of the most consistent teams last season, and they're kicking off this season with an absolute bang. Centered and Cold doing the same thing as well. So huge NA East Cash Cup to start it off. We had Ages in Canada playing some beautiful Fortnite, getting a 7 elim first in their last game and a 6 elim first in their first game. So they honestly were kind of the team that was either having those pop-off games or they were going down, not early, like 25th place is when they went down twice, and 23rd. That is like still making it to end game. You were still making it to half into rotating zones. So they weren't going down like on spawn or anything, but when they're set up, they get the position they want. Quite often they get high ground, they win the game. They are playing very good. We had Illiston Jack in 4th. They were around that top place when they got 2 wins back to back, a 5 elim win and a 6 elim win. Unfortunately, their last 2 games did let them down, and they jumped down into 4th. Pam, Stu, and Fatch, again, honestly, were playing so phenomenally well. They were looking like they could take the Cash Cup, but they ended up coming in 5th. Another team that is so consistent last season, so it's awesome seeing them pop off as well. We had Mega and Dubs, the OGs. Everyone keeps asking, when are Mega and Dubs gonna split? When they fall off, because right now they are doing amazing, and they came 6th place with only 5 games played. They didn't connect into one of their games. So if you take their point average, which was 28.20, and you add that to their score, they absolutely would have popped off even more so. That would have got them, what, a 3rd place, almost a 2nd place. So they are playing very well to kick off the season. We had Glace and Gold, 2 players who have been on a lot of people's radar, but haven't really had that pop-off season they need, in 7th. Tahi and Paper are brand new team in 8th. Scare and Walker's in 9th, and then Shadow and Me Too, a very consistent team from last season, showing up big this season as well. We were missing some of the big names like Clicks and Day, but it was a very good Cash Cup from NA East, and meanwhile it didn't have the burst glitch that EU had. The games were so stacked. Just like EU, we had like 70 players sometimes making it until like 3rd and 4th zone. People just out healing for so long. Games would have like 48 players on rotating zone, when Surge is 30. Like, we would still have active Surge on like 3rd rotating zone or end of 2nd. It was insanely stacked. Moving on from the Cash Cups, I want to talk about the Twitch Rival tournament that is taking place today. As always, twitch.tv/Aussie Antics. I'm going to be watching it, but this tournament is not what a lot of people think it is, myself included, until I've read these rules. So these are the $10,000 creator series, which is going to then culminate in a finals later on with a bigger prize pool. But the way these creator series works is it looks like the players were able to pick their format. I don't want to fully say they picked it without asking them. I've reached out to a couple of them to see if they actually got to pick the rules themselves, or whether it was just kind of like the rules were assigned to them and they got a little bit of say in them. But so far, it's looking like an interesting tournament, because I think there's going to be a lot of content creators and people invited playing in this tournament that believe it's 0 build, because P-God's version has 1 game that is 0 build, but then it has 4 games that are arena trios. So we might potentially see some of those content creators like Tfue, like Nick Merckx, who have been loving the no build Fortnite, seeing how they play in build Fortnite. I don't know if they're going to be playing, and I don't know if they know these are the rules, because I feel like not a lot of people realized these were the rules. They didn't actually read them. These are the tournaments with $10,000 in line, so not a small amount of money, but it's not like the big $100,000 Twitch Rivals we just saw. The way it's going to work is 1st place is going to get 2,800, 2nd 1,800, and all the way down. But they're also giving out bonuses for like the most consistent team, the most amount of elims, and all that stuff on top. The thing I wanted to talk about though was, yes, these content creators haven't played the game for a while. They might just have some fun trying out the building mode, but they're going up against some insane teams. I talked about this in a previous video. Twitch Rivals' definition right now of what makes a pro is, did they make heats last season? So you're probably already thinking, wait, there's quite a lot of insane players who didn't make heats last season. One of them being Reet and Rex. We have now had a team announced today that is going to be Arkram, Epic Whale, and Reet playing in this tournament. When it's regular arena trios, that is the NA West FNCS winning team. And there's also rumors that not every game is going to be played on NA East. Some of these are going to be played on NA West. So it's going to be a fun tournament to watch. We'll see how the content creators fare. But this isn't the weirdest format. We have even weirder. We have Somerset's tournament, which is taking place next week, that is looking even crazier. So Somerset's tournament looks like it's, I think it's Fortnite Friday. It looks like it's kill races. So it's 32 teams will face off in this 5-round Swiss style tournament as they compete head to head in Somerset's chosen duo squads format. In each match, 2 teams will send in 2 of their players to queue as a foursome into 2 public games, trying to rack up more eliminations than the opponent. Teams are reward prizing for their placement in the event and series points based on their performance, giving the top places a leg up ahead of the Creator Series finale on May 25th. So we now have kill races coming back as well, and I believe these are going to be 0 build kill races, because it says featuring Fortnite 0 build. So I'm pretty sure the way this is going to go is they're going to be playing these in no build Fortnite doing kill races. It's going to be interesting. I'm excited to see it. Again, I don't know whether Somerset fully picked this format or whether it's just Somerset's tournament, her name's being posted on it. I will reach out to them to ask, but again, if this is what they picked, it's their tournament. It looks like a bunch of fun. And what they mentioned there about getting series points to make it into the finals, I believe believe that if you want to play in the finals, the majority of the content creators like Tfue, like Nick Mercs will be playing in these. I don't know whether they can still play the finals if they don't play in them. It is a very, very confusing format. I'll probably do a follow-up video to this one when I get even more details, because I've read through the rules and I'm still a little bit confused, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew we have some very, very crazy tournaments coming up, and I will be watching all of them. While we're on the topic of crazy formats, this one has been getting a lot of attention. You guys kept asking me in stream, so I'm going to answer it properly now. My thoughts on the Fortnite PlayStation Cup being zero build. Now, this one is hard for me because obviously I'm fully supporting the zero build and all the excitement it's bringing to the game. And if it's bringing a bunch of eyes, a bunch of players, it's generating money and putting prize pool towards it is totally fine. But I have been arguing this whole time that it needs to coexist happily alongside regular competitive. You can't just, you know, destroy regular competitive that's kept the game going for a long time. Again, I'm not saying that competitive has been more important than casual gaming. I've just always argued that if in the last, like, let's say 2 years when Fortnite obviously lost its peak, if competitive died or casual died, they'd both die. I think at times both of them have kept each other held up and happy, keeping the game going to get back to another great spot like it's in now. So competitive is clearly very, very important to Fortnite and the players. Again, I know people always make this argument of comp players don't spend as much on the game as casual players, but the casual players who then watch comp players want to play more, get better, buy the skins they wear, and you see how it has a factor, right? I don't think I need to debate this, that obviously competitive is still important to Fortnite, but when you take one of the very few tournaments that the competitive console scene gets and you make it no building and then you don't have a building version, it is quite unfortunate. For a lot of people who have been practicing the game for years now, playing, getting better, and they just want to be able to play in a game of Fortnite against their friends, regular Fortnite with building, and see how well they go on console. So seeing it being taken to zero build, I understand why people are upset. It is a console tournament, and I would actually argue that probably the console scene, even more than PC scene, is loving the no building. And I don't want to see in the comments, Aussie, I play on PlayStation, I love building, I hate no building. I get it. I'm just talking more broadly and more generally. The casual player base usually is on console. So this is probably a way of Epic testing out how much that casual player base will actually play in a tournament for money on the zero build game mode. And they're going to use this to then maybe make future tournaments that are no building with prize money. But I hope they'll make that separate to a regular building tournament with prize money. But we don't even know whether Epic decided this. This could have been Sony's decision after all, and this whole discussion is pointless. A lot of the times, these tournaments are actually organized by Sony. Maybe Sony thought, hey, we've seen a bunch of excitement for the no building on Fortnite. Let's make our next PlayStation Cup no building and see if kids like it. That is a very, very real possibility. So people in the comments who are saying, oh, like this means that FNCS is going to be no building, just wait, like Destiny Jesus. You've got Bizik who's freaking out and getting annoyed at the competitive team. It could just be Sony's decision and there's nothing deeper than that. But I do think Epic will have eyes on it to see whether the no building competitive takes off. Because right now, yes, it's no surprise that zero building is drawing a lot of people. We're having a lot of big content creators come back and play it and watch it. But how much are people actually going to care when there's no big content creators? When it's just more like a Cash Cup and it is actually a competitive game that people play and try to get better at. Because like I keep saying, if you try to make the zero builds more competitive and more sweaty, I would argue that it loses a lot of the value that people love for it right now, just being casual, dumb fun with friends. So I'm intrigued to see what the player pool looks like, how many people are actually going to play in this tournament. It is for a good amount of money as well, and you do also get a cosmetic if you earn at least 8 points, but again, you guys don't really care. It's just an emoticon, so... But there is prize money though, and that's what people care about. It's $18,000 prize pool, I believe it is. No, $116,000 prize pool. It is going to be a 2-round tournament of no building. First place, Victory Royale is going to get you 30 points. Each elim is going to be worth 1. That's in the first rounds. In round 2, same thing, 30 points for a win, but each elim will be worth 2. And the top 100 players are going to qualify for round 2. So we're going to see set lobby, no building tournament for prize money on console. It's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm going to keep eyes on it, but I wanted to kind of calm some people down who are freaking out about this means the competitive is definitely going to go no building. We're going to have a no building FNCS. Cash Cup's going to be no building. I don't think it means that. I understand the console players and the PlayStation players who are upset, that were really excited for a console tournament to practice the regular competitive game mode they're used to. I feel for you. I'm sorry to hear that you guys are upset, but I don't think it's the end of the world like a lot of people are saying it is. Alright guys, that does it for another video. If you enjoyed, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.